Hey, welcome to Brady's Corner. I'm Brady Bryan, and every 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a new industry leader. We're going to talk about the ups and downs, the highs, the lows, and their experiences in industry. Today, I'm very excited to present to you Bobby Rios, CFO of Bartlett Cocke Contractors. And welcome, Bobby. Thanks for coming aboard today.
Thanks, Brady. Glad to be here.
Can you give just kind of a brief overview and introduction of you and your professional career here?
Okay, sure. I'm going to probably take you back a little further than you probably want me to, but I'll start there. Born and raised, small town outside of San Antonio called Hondo, Texas. Attended University of Texas and got an accounting degree. Shortly thereafter, went into public accounting, got my CPA certification, and kind of moved around the country, traveled quite a bit. I won't go into all those travels because it would probably take a little bit more than 15 minutes to get all that in. But eventually ended up back here in San Antonio, and by luck, happened to kind of come upon this position. I was working in the pharmaceutical market as a controller actually there, and the opportunity came up, or actually the company got acquired, and the opportunity came up for me to interview for this position here, and was fortunate enough to get it. And I guess I'll say one other thing. My dad was a bricklayer. He was in the construction industry and had his own company, did more residential, very, very little commercial. But I think the irony of all that is that I ended up in the construction industry because I was not in the construction industry before I came here to Bartlett Cocke.
That's great. And so how long have you been there at Bartlett?
October 1st, which was this last Friday, I was here officially 14 years.
Wow. Wow. And now can you tell us a little bit about Bartlett? You guys are almost 1,000 employees. Is that right?
No, we actually, Bartlett Cocke got started in 1959. So a year after I was born, give my age here a little bit. So I always can remember how long they've been in business because it's one less year than what I'm old. We have about just under 500 employees. Okay. Now we have been over that number, not at the 1,000. Would love to get there eventually. Would love to get to $1 billion in revenues, where our highest have been about 760 million. We're on track to maybe do that next year, and hopefully within 2-3 years could potentially get to the $1 billion mark, which would be fantastic for us.
That's amazing. And would you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you do? What are your typical industries you work in?
So we have been known to do a lot of public work. And so that, I say that only because probably 2-3 years ago, 90% of our work was public, K through 12, higher ed, predominantly in that area. Probably 75 to 80% of our work was in that market. We have since moved, probably in the last 2 years, more into the private market. The private world now makes up probably about 25% of our work, and we're going to continue to grow that. We don't want to abandon our public. We want to continue to do public, but we want to grow both markets, and probably are shifting a little bit more towards the private, just because there's a lot of opportunities out there. So data centers, kind of more on the industrial side, warehousing, cold storage, probably some of the click industries that are kind of, you hear more about recently as a result of the pandemic. We're trying to move into those markets and away from what we've traditionally been doing. And so far we've been very successful. And so we'll continue to hopefully, like I said, grow both markets.
I appreciate that. Are you doing anything in the multifamily side as well?
We are. And I should have mentioned that. That's correct. We are doing multifamily. We had been doing some condo work, and we're finishing up some of that work, but we're really doing more multifamily, more on the rental side. And that's really, we started in our Austin market, and we've kind of started doing some work here in San Antonio. Actually, our first big job here in San Antonio. So I'll mention we're in 4 regions or 4 markets. We started here in San Antonio. We have an office in Austin. We have an office in Houston and an office in Baytown. And our Baytown is kind of has been our industrial market and more in the petroleum industry, doing not refineries or anything like that, but more on the buildings within, they call it inside the fence, which kind of is a highly secured area. But that's kind of our, the majority of our industrial work has been there.
That's great. Now, going from predominantly public work to going in the private sector, how has that shift been? Has it been a change in the way you go about, bidding on projects and running projects and the people you align there? Or what's been the biggest change?
Yeah, well, you hit on a couple. People, it's different. People that work on public work, like K through 12 education buildings versus private work. It's just, especially multifamily, it's just a different set of subs, different set of project managers, superintendents. So that's been a shift that we've had to go out and hire those folks because we didn't have the expertise in place. And at least for someone who can help or teach and mentor our existing superintendents, project managers, et cetera. So that's been a big shift. And then the other big shift for us is when you have public work, it's where the funds are. I mean, it's usually bond money. You get paid on time. You don't really have any issues there. And not that we've encountered any issues with our private work, but we're certainly sensitive to that. I mean, on private work, you may be awarded a job, but it may take a while before all the funding is in place. So you really can't start till the funding is in place. So that's been another thing that we've had to adjust to. In public work, it's very predictable. You know when it's going to start, especially schools. You know when you're going to finish. When the buses roll up, the schools have got to be completed. So you've got a pretty tight schedule and you know when things are going to start and stop. With private, it can be put off for weeks, it can be put off for months. During the pandemic, some jobs were put on hold indefinitely. We had a job that probably should have started 2 years ago that probably, we keep hearing that it's going to, come back and resurface, but yeah, that's been the challenge with private work, is that there is no definitive start and end date. And I say end date. Well, end date usually there is, but it's when the start date is going to occur.
So a couple of things I'd like to ask there and dig into. So you obviously have more than 100 employees. Curious as to how the Department of Labor mandate is going to affect you and your team. As far as the compliance with the COVID-19 vaccination certification and all of that.
So, as far as I know, keep in mind I'm the CFO. I know there are some things and some talks. We obviously are on top of things and trying to make sure that we do, when we find out exactly what it is that we need to comply to, that we'll be in compliance. There's still a lot of questions to be answered. So we're just, trying to stay on top of things. We definitely want to be in compliance when the time comes. We currently are doing surveys of our employees. We think we're about maybe 75% vaccinated versus non-vaccinated. So that's a little surprising. That's actually a little higher than what we thought we would be. So it's encouraging, but we still have some work to do. We just started the survey here last week. So we're hoping to wrap it up here in a week or two and then start taking some action to see what we need to do to encourage people to get vaccinated. We certainly want to, we believe, it's obviously beneficial to have people vaccinated than not. I will share this with you. We had 2 employees that actually chose not to get vaccinated, both in their 50s, both with wives, family, and both got COVID and passed away from it. So that was extremely tragic and kind of eye-opening. Me personally, I really think that had they gotten vaccinated, they'd still be here. But that was a decision that they made. And it's just kind of sad to see that. And, you would hope that when it hits that close to home, that people would jump on the vaccination bandwagon, but that's not the case. That's not necessarily the case. So we'll see. Again, don't have all the answers, but we hope to. And then once we do, we certainly want to push, and we will push towards compliance.
Well, I'm terribly sorry to hear the news about your 2 employees, and but am very interested to hear how things are develop, and would love to have you back on I guess in the next month or 2 to kind of see how things develop there.
Sure, absolutely.
So yeah, I know there's been quite a few emails and talks going around about people trying to figure out how to comply and what other people are doing.
Right.
So it's a big deal. It affects a lot of companies.
Yep.
And especially when you're doing public work, they tend to be able to enforce that a lot quicker, right?
Right.
So,
Right. And we're okay with enforcement. I mean, I think, again, let us know I know OSHA is involved pretty heavily, and I think they're going to mandate some policies. I'm not sure how they're going to get reinforced and all that. Again, there's a lot of questions, but we feel like from our standpoint, we got a lot of people that are out there on the job sites, exposed to a lot of other subs. Subs do a lot of our work, so we can control our employees, but OSHA will help, I guess, control across the board. Just other subs and all that we can't necessarily control from a vaccination standpoint. So we'll see. I agree. I think there's a lot of changes to come. I think they're going to come here shortly, and we'll see where that all kind of takes us.
So let's talk about the horizon. You and I were talking a little bit about 2022, 2023. What are some of the indicators you're seeing as to why you think they're going to be banner years, and what are some key takeaways that we can go from there?
Well, our key indicator right now is our backlog, and our backlog is it's the highest it's ever been. We've got right now for 2023 probably over 700 million in backlog. And that's backlog jobs that either currently on the WIP or that have been awarded to us. And what's interesting is, and that contains no unknown revenue. That would assume we do nothing more, acquire no more work, which is not going to happen. And for 2023, our numbers are probably right now in the kind of 600 million. And again, that's stuff that we know in hand. Of course, it's got to start and all that. We've got to get it up and running. And then we have about 250 million in revenue or jobs. And some of it is not involved with the two numbers that I just gave you, that we have not even assigned to a year, because I'll give you an example. There's a school district that we've been awarded the jobs. All they're waiting for is the bond to pass. The bond passes, we can then start on the work and get the work done. I mean, there's 250 million. Not all of it is that type of a situation, but we have about 250 million that's sitting out there. So our backlog is just crazy. I know you probably know, you work in different states. Texas has been somewhat immune to kind of recessionary periods. With the last recession, this recession. I say this recession, I don't really consider this a recession. I really consider more of a pandemic. It's still, there's a lot of people moving to Texas. It's a friendly state to work, relatively inexpensive to live in. And so there's a ton of people moving in, and they're doing, with the public work that we do, it just adds to that industry. So
that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, so that's roughly, based on what you're telling me and your current numbers, that's about 2 years backlog, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what's the biggest roadblocks? What's the biggest hurdles keeping you from getting there and ramping up? And, is it labor or
labor?
Talent?
Yeah, it's labor. I mean, again, the pandemic, I guess I forget what the term that they use for people that just decided, I'm retiring. I almost did it. I didn't do it because of the pandemic. I was kind of on track to retire here early next year. And I stayed on, again, not because of the pandemic or anything like that, but just to me, it was labor is just, there's a real issue, and it's not art for us. We can go hire people. Again, under 500 employees, and we've been successful. I mean, there's a lot of, employees that are being, called constantly by other companies, and for a little bit more money, you can come work for us, and promising this, promising that. So we're losing some people to that. Of course, we're doing the same thing with going out and reaching out for other people as well that work for other companies, and just our subs. I mean, just the labor shortages that they experience. Again, 90% of our work gets done by subcontractors. If they don't have the employees to do it, they just don't have. They're not able to do the work. So that's the biggest challenge. Of course, materials, as you well know, probably. There's been a shortage. There's some challenges there. That's big variable. Lumber's back to what it was before, and there seems to be plenty of lumber now. So, but there's other places where that's not the case. So again, that could hinder, again, jobs starting when we'd like for them to start, because if you don't have the materials that you need or that you can substitute for, you're stuck. You can't do the work.
So on the talent side, what are the top two things that you're doing to combat that, to overcome that, to gain and attract the talent that you need? And also on the subcontractor side, what are you doing to kind of bridge that gap and give them a little bit more, roadway there?
Yeah. Well, on the employee side, I'll start there. Just a lot of things, looking at our packages, making sure our salaries are competitive when we start people out. So certainly looking at that. And then we're doing a lot just more with onboarding and training and kind of continual touching with employees, just to make sure that, we want to make sure that we know that they're happy. If they're not unhappy, we'd rather find out sooner rather than later. And hopefully they're not unhappy because of anything we're doing, but they're hearing things or we need to communicate more. We're just trying to improve that. We're trying to make sure that we're staying in touch with our employees. On the sub side, I will pride ourselves in saying this, that subs usually, and I say usually, I mean, I really should say, as far as I'm concerned, every time that I've talked to a sub, they're very complimentary of us. They love working with us, and these are their words, not mine. They appreciate the fact that we pay them. I know in this industry, it's you pay when get paid, and we try to do as fast of a turnaround as we can. And you will hear subs unsolicited from us that they will tell us that we are very prompt in paying, and they appreciate that. So you got to take care of the guys that are doing the work for you, and so that we've always done that, and we want to certainly feel like we want to continue to do that in order to maintain those relationships.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. Bobby, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Brady's Corner. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you at the next Brady's Corner.